Hello everyone and welcome to a battle guide for Thorgrim Grudgebearer. So, what have I done? It's very simple. I'm gonna simplify these battle guides. The other ones were 1 hour long. I had 3 armies, 3 different battles, so that's 9 battles. I'm just gonna do 2. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a standard land battle and a siege battle. And I'm gonna try to show you what my thoughts are, how I approach battles, deployment phase, what is the initial order that I give to my units, and how I adapt. Now the settings, this isn't custom battle. It's easy to test, it's easy to recreate, you can use your own difficulty and adjust, you can select maps, try on different situations, and I gave characters their unique items and mounts, but no basic items. So they have their abilities, cast as lords are randomly chosen. Now there's no lord skills, redline skills, research or mechanics effects, etc. This is as simple as it gets, which means that in campaign you're actually going to have a lot more effectiveness of this army. It doesn't matter which army it is in all these guides, it will always be much better because of all the buffs that you can get. Just redline skills, research, and even the lord specific ones already make the compositions really much better. So overall, this is the idea, that you can replicate this easily and try to learn a little bit on how to fight battles. So, without further ado, let's start with the army for Thorgrim, which is... So overall, some iron breakers, hammerers, thunderers, and some artillery. You're going to need tier 4 buildings, but mostly for the iron breakers, and 3 to 5 buildings depending on for the heroes. 15 redline skills used, and all units benefit from specific Thorgrim skills. It's a great land and actually siege army, extremely strong defensive capacity. The only thing in siege is that it's awkward is going to be the thunderers. You're going to see an example then. This is also a starting army to late game progression example. What does this mean? From that initial starting army, what do I recruit? You can see the units that I recruit and the buildings that I focus on so that I can get immediately to those. Like for instance in Thorgrim, I actually go immediately into military buildings and try to get some of those thunderers early on and some catapults. And that's mainly to deal with Skarsnik, okay? That's a good army actually to bring over against Skarsnik and fight him out. Just be careful, he's tough. Then of course with the buildings complete, you're going to upgrade the army. Those dwarves with great weapons will become hammerers. All those crossbow units and everything will become the thunderers. And of course, as soon as we get the artillery, we're going to ditch some of the flyers and other units that don't really belong on the unit composition. Only later on, as soon as we get iron breakers, we substitute the miners. So overall, we're going to have 4 steps. Step 1, to assess the difficulty. What does that mean? Here's the battle. We're going to assess the difficulty, and these characters are quite similar. They're strong in prolonged melee. I gave him some belong Grimgor, a Black Orc big boss. So the front line is great. Damage dealing. They have some level of artillery with the new spiders, so it's going to be tricky. We're going to have to deal with those. And also I don't have any specific anti-large, so I'll have to find a way to deal with those trolls that will advance on us, likely with a mix of the hammerers and the runesmith and the thunderers, who whatever is better poised to deal with them. Step 2 is to deploy, and how we deploy is based of course on the assess of the difficulty that we mentioned, because this is where I'm going to say, okay, my artillery is going to be all together. The thunderers need to be on a location where they can assist the flanks, because there are going to be some flankers, and I'm going to put my my shielded units in front, of course, to go against any missile units of the enemy. Then the runesmith on one side with the slayer on the other side. These 2 heroes are important specifically to deal with the trolls. So overall, the idea here is whether he's going to send them on the left flank or the right flank. At least I have a hero that can deal with them. The runesmith by buffing the army units here, giving them more armor or more ward save, that sort of idea. Going back to the artillery, they're positioned so that they can be buffed by the engineer. And those units, how I put the control groups, it's always the same. 1, 2, 3 for Lord and Heroes, 4 for ranged units, 5 for frontline, and then 10 for artillery. Okay? Let's decide a plan of attack. So on this step 3, I want you to give 1 order to your troops. 1 order. I want you to think of one thing that you want them to do. That's it. Every single unit, one thing you want them to do. Okay? So in this case, my infantry will only attack the enemy infantry when they're close. My ranged units will attack the trolls or spiders who approach, or maybe Grimgor. It depends, whoever approaches. That's the action. Whoever approaches that is a big target, that's where the Thunderers will go. Artillery will engage the large entities like the spiders and the onagers, of course, no, not the onagers, I call them onagers all the time. The grudge throwers, they'll attack the enemy infantry. And of course, you can see there it reads, once they are engaged, turns on archer units. That's already going into the step 4, okay? And what is it precisely step 4? Step 4 is what to focus during the battle. So let's watch the battle, and the focus is going to be precisely on adapting to this. So we already know greenskins don't have a lot of leadership, so taking out their lord, which is quite a powerful lord, is quite important. So that's something that I'm going to have in analysis. Right now, all that I did was tell my cannons, hey, attack that spider, tell my other artillery to attack 1 infantry unit. And it's not attacking 4 units at the same time, no, just keep it simple. Taking out 1 enemy unit and making it flee always impacts the others nearby, which is always helpful. It's not as good as, let's say, putting 2 to half size. So right now, I'm attacking that spider, 1 spider off, that's already 1 less enemy without having to close up or anything. Right now, I'm thinking maybe I can adapt. I can go versus Grimgor. Maybe if they show up, I can attack the Black Orcs near Grimgor, can do some damage to him on default, or I can just tell my Thunderers to attack him. But we're under attack here by the Trolls, and that's where we prepared the Runesmith, giving my Hammerers some really well Rune of Negation, which gives them 40 ward save, which is perfect. They're gonna fight these Trolls, having that effect, they're not gonna suffer too much, and that's exactly what we want. Overall, I'm now thinking, hey, Grimgor doesn't have a shield. Perfect target for a couple of Thunderers. Don't overcommit. Just a couple of Thunderers, sometimes it's enough to deal with this. I'm already sending the cannons because I see the opening, and I'm thinking, hey, I can attack the Grimgor, and I can attack the infantry that is over there. So let's stop the battle here and analyze it a little bit. Now, the enemy spiders are still not controlled. See how I had to ditch that for the focus fire on Grimgor? That was a decision in this spotlight. I saw, hey, Grimgor is not soloing. He's going after his own troops, so he's slower. And that makes him a viable target. The grudge throwers focus on the enemy archers, and that means that my Thunderers can deal with Grimgor really well. Then my Hammers are dealing as well with the Trolls, and I can see that they're almost wavering, so I'm not concerned on that side. I'm just going to make sure that there's 1 Thunder unit to support, and the Runesmith is there to keep an eye on necessary buffs. Of course, you can't pause in the action if you're playing Legendary, but you can still pause to think and to analyze this. And sometimes just closing your eyes and remembering, okay, this helps, I'm going to focus fire that, I'm going to focus fire that other one, or I'm simply going to react to what's happening here, okay? But at least have an idea of what to react against, right? So let's continue the battle and see the outcome of these decisions. So I set the Dragon Slayer against Grimgor, because there's not really another target. You know, Thorgrim is dealing with a Black Orc. We have some Thunderers supporting versus those Trolls. They're about to die, really, because that hammer is doing such nice damage. The Runesmith is supporting it fine. So yeah, I'm now thinking Grimgor is dead. What is the next target? Let's go back to the initial ones for the cannons. The spiders. Let's make sure that all of them are damaged. Near the end, so battles are quite fast. So as soon as you see that there's some units flashing, right, that they are going to withdraw, that's when you start thinking, maybe I should just ensure that everyone has some damage. This is to create a faster army losses, okay? So if you see 2 spiders, you're going to attack the one with some health left, or with full health, because that's the biggest problem. That spider that it's full health is the whole reason why this army doesn't collapse entirely. That and that cast the hero, which I'm now going to focus. I'm actually committing an error here, which is I'm breaking my line too soon. You notice that it's no longer a line I'm just pursuing, and the enemy can always come back. And the worst problem is with units or enemies that have low leadership, like the Greenskins or Skaven. That's their strength. They're gonna go away, and then suddenly, if you break through your line, if they break through your line, you're toast. So I'm gonna have to switch attention to those with low health or with high health to try and force this whole army to leave and to make it go into army losses. And then I spot exactly the biggest problem. I've managed to send out the units, but there are a couple of units that are still surviving and I need to kill them. So I'm trying to go against the caster, I'm trying to go against those spiders, and that's where, as soon as I get some damage level on that caster, you're going to see that the enemy is going to go away. And that's the key premise that I want you to think. This was a battle that I'm analyzing after the fact, and I'm realizing, yeah, this was not good. I recommend that you always do replays, and if you see that a battle could have gone better, just go watch the replay. You're going to find some errors in our gameplay. You're going to find some stuff to benefit more. Like, I mean, can you see this caster, the fact that the enemy caster is still with full strength, the difference that it has made? That's why they are fighting right now. That spider over there, that's why they're fighting over now. And I'm hitting these trolls that would rout if I would hit the spider. See the problem? Look the difference that as soon as that caster gets hit one more time, he's already half, and now he's gone. And the whole army goes away because of that. That's the importance of going for army losses. Now this is a second battle on Hell Pit versus the Skaven. Let's assess the difficulty. In this case, of course, it's a siege. Note, of course, there's going to be a siege rework, which is why I'm using some siege weapons and stuff. But of course, most of this information can be still used, if not even better, when the siege rework comes in. So that's why I decided, I saw the ideas of the siege rework, and I thought, well, this is just actually buffing the style that I'm going to present here. So yeah, characters are quite similar, and it means, like, if they go one-on-one, it's difficult to tell who's going to win. That's usually what I mean with similar. Like, it's not like there's a Scar brand here, you know? They have some sneaky damage here from both the Assassin and the Warlock. Warlock more the AoE damage that he can send, but his frontline, he has some armor piercing, and he has shields, so it's difficult for my Thunderers to do anything in this battle. And they have their missiles, which are powerful versus blobs. I gave them some poison wind mortars, so I have to deal with those. And then the single entities are kind of powerful versus the enemy characters, so I have to be careful because he can sneak in some of those single entities to attack me while with support from his heroes, and suddenly Thorgrim or the Runesmith are dead. So I gotta be careful with that. So weapons teams need to be taken out before advancing into the city. Step 2 is to deploy. So now we have the idea. We have to deploy. We have some siege towers and a battering ram. So I'm going to give them to the hammerers. And my missile units, my shield units are going to remain behind, or in front actually, to stop enemy missiles. That's about it. You know, he does have some missiles. And then I'm going to advance and try to put the Thunderers on the walls as soon as possible, because they're not going to shoot anything in the beginning, right? In addition, you're going to have the artillery with the same deployment, you know, just around the engineer, with the purpose of now destroying towers, and that's the first action. And of course, I just have to ensure that they are within range of some part of the courtyard, so that they have some targets there. Step 2, let's give them an order of attack. Now we see the enemy forces, and we have to find what to attack. I found the enemy weapons teams, and I'm assigning fire to my artillery. They're not still in range, but some of them are. Perfect. I'm going to hit whatever I can with the grudge throwers, which have an arc fire. And then the cannons are just going to hit the enemy towers. That's it. So, destroy the towers, take out any weapons teams or anyone within line of sight, and take your time. This is as valuable as a lesson as it was on Siege as it was on the land battle. I was too eager. I've been fighting a lot with lizardmen who play a lot differently, so I didn't have the artillery. And now I thought, oh, I need to take my time. Let me make this a mistake that I can make you guys learn from it, okay? As always, one decision or one action per unit. The infantry will move to the walls only after the weapons teams are destroyed, or at least routed, or, you know, some damage done to them. Let's watch the battle. The fort towers fall really easily to the cannons. They likely are going to be buffed for the next rework, but I plan that this will still be quite a valid proposition to attack the towers, destroy the towers, and move this sort of layered initiative, you know, instead of just rushing everyone. Because the biggest problem that we can have on this battle, and I tested it, is if you rush the walls, you're going to lose some units. You're going to lose some units, especially because of those poison wind mortars and Jezzails. As soon as they have a clear range for those hammers, they're toast. So you got to be careful with that. If it was all iron breakers, maybe I could advocate to go to the walls, because you have the shields. But hammers don't. Shields is what matters. It doesn't matter armor, okay? You know, I'm just fast forwarding, destroying the towers, as you can see. You can open gaps if you prefer. I just rather not. Why? Because that's a strategy in its own, and not a strategy that I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to do taking out the walls for myself and see if my Thunderers can go in. And that will depend on what the enemy does. It always does, right? It depends what the enemy does, and that's where you react. But the plan still remains the same. I'm going to take care of the Warplock Jezzails. I'm not going to take care of the Poison Wind Globadiers. You can see that they're already, you know, losing a lot. Weapons teams are a great target for cannons and grudge throwers. They really manage to do some damage. I can send my catapults or the grudge throwers against anything that is clumped up, like the storm vermin on the walls, but that's not the main threat. Main threat, and the reason why I'm not attacking the walls, is those Warplock Jezzails and the Poison Wind Globadiers. Not Poison Wind Globadiers, Poison Wind Mortars. Which is why I have to fire on them before. And yes, the whole land battle was almost finished by the time that I'm still firing on those units. But there's no danger to me here. I can just be firing, and I could even just abuse the artillery. I don't like doing that too much, but it is a viable strategy. Just stay out of way. It would be the same if the enemy had their own artillery. I would just focus all 4 of my units into their own artillery. And if they would have like 6 or 7 units of artillery, likely they won't all be in range, so you can do some sort of sneaking around to destroy one by one. The same way that I'm doing this. Just trying to ensure that I have all my artillery firing and that I always keep them with the ammunition. You can notice that the ammunition just risen. If you had an eagle eye there, you notice that the ammunition was just dropped for the grudge throwers, sorry. Which is why they still have so much ammunition, and that's where, you know, all the reloads, not the reloads, the ammunition that you can give with an engineer comes forth, because that allows them to keep firing and firing and firing. Now, finally, we're going to advance, and let me stop the battle just to show you a little bit. So here's the idea. Let's switch attention to now enemy characters and single entities. Why? Because there's a Poison Wind Globadier really far away, and the other ones have been destroyed. Well, not destroyed, but they're like 3 or 4. It's fine. This damage means we can push forward. As the character's single entities fall, the infantry will rout. So that's the target. Very, very rarely will you hear me say target the infantry. Very rarely. I did say on the previous battle, you know, just with the great, with my grudge throwers, but that's so rare to happen. I could even advocate going for another spider or the trolls with the grudge throwers, you know? Because infantry is there to perform their duty as a front line, but if everything else falls, they fall as well. Now, towers are destroyed, weapons teams are rotting or weak, now you advance. Take the walls for your infantry and missile infantry. But be careful, do not overextend. And it's so easy to overextend against factions that you think have no power, like the Skaven. It's so easy to underestimate the Skaven. Like I said, they have sneaky damage. You won't realize this is sneaky damage. And really look how much damage it gave. Half health of a hammer unit. Lots of entities dead. That's the sneaky damage. Suddenly, that hammer unit, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, do I have to withdraw it? Can it be still there? Do I have to worry about friendly fire? You know? Is it going to rout? What is going to happen? You know, you have to be careful with that. Now I'm sending in my hammerers and also sending in my thunderers to the walls so that they will try to shoot some single entities. It's difficult because I haven't yet taken the walls, and it's unlikely that it will happen. My cannons and other artillery are hitting the warlock, and I'm still keeping an eye on that poison wind globadier, mortar. And right now, see that hammer unit? I should have withdrawn it. I have further units. I could send another one. And I didn't, but okay. I guess they can hold on. Maybe I can buff them a little bit with the runesmith and they'll survive. We don't have heals, which is a big problem for the dwarfs, but you do have some extra armor and other stuff. See how the poison wind mortars are doing their damage? I'm actually approaching my grudge throwers so they'll be able to target them because they're so difficult. And always those clearings, there's always some places that are higher ground than the walls if you know where you deploy. And that's where I want you to try and find. Because my cannons, they're able to fire throughout the whole battle just by me finding good targets for them and the AI cooperating, really. So it's time now to step 4. Let's check what I should check out, what I should be forcing out. Now, only one weapons team is alive. I'm going to take the walls. I'm going to be careful not to be drawn too early to the courtyard. This happens with every single army. Don't be drawn out down to the courtyard too early, otherwise they're going to surround you, get their single entities on you, and you'll die with some units. Dock the missiles to focus fire on single entities. This also forces the enemy to attack you. So even if you don't see a lot of damage from the Thunderers, know that they've done it. They've done the fact that, hey, now this Hell Pit Abomination is now here and is vulnerable to my shooters. So overall, this is how a staggered initiative goes. This is the point where I start seeing also the biggest decision making that you always have in these battles. Watch your health. Just as soon as you make this mental note, for instance, pro tip of the day. As soon as you've reached the walls, just make sure that you keep checking any unit that is about to die and buffing them, retreating them, just ensuring that it survives the battle. Just that creates a cascade effect in all of your campaigns, and suddenly, instead of having to replenish troops after a battle, you're just going to be able to continue fighting, continue conquering, and still playing some nice sieges like this. Right now, the second part is trying to go for army losses. Remember the first idea? And what is the enemy that is actually making me not have army losses against him? Those single entities. There's a unit of Night Slingers there that it's a big problem as well. But I'm going to focus fire on those single entities and see what I can do. I'm actually keeping my runesmith going after Queek, because if he could kill him, then it would be much easier. Some of the enemy is already retreating, but all of this problem, I don't think it's because of those poison wind globadiers. I think just one volley on those Night Slingers, look at that. Just a couple of shots, that's enough to make them all crumble and go away. Why? Because I spread out the damage to make sure that every single unit has that issue of having, someone attacking them, and that creates the leadership bomb that you need for army losses. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is a shorter episode than the other ones. The other ones were like 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. It's better for me to do this so that I can demonstrate just one army. Let me know if you prefer this format. I can still do this format for every single lord. And if you like that progression, for instance, that's something that I can do for every single lord as well. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this helps, and have a wonderful day.